From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News, reported by John Siegenthaler.
Good evening, everyone. 50 years ago today, tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers and thousands more from other nations joined under the United Nations flag to fight communist North Korea, which had invaded the South. The war lasted 3 years, cost the lives of nearly 37,000 Americans, and left the Korean peninsula divided. Today, thousands of Korean War veterans paid tribute to those who lost their lives. NBC's John Palmer has our report.
It has often been called the Forgotten War because it fell between World War II and Vietnam. But it was not forgotten today. There were ceremonies in cities and towns all across America, in places like Lansing, Michigan, Tampa, Florida, and Chicago. In South Korea, there was a modest commemoration to avoid offending longtime enemies in the North, who just hosted a summit a week ago in an effort to improve relations. 37,000 American troops remain on duty in South Korea, and today President Kim Dae-jung said U.S. forces will stay there until there is a secure peace. Dozens of American Korean War veterans attended the ceremony.
Look at Korea and see what a marvelous democratic country it is. That's our reward.
Here in Washington, thousands of American Korean War veterans attended a special commemoration near the mall, pleased that their forgotten war was being remembered 50 years later. President Clinton called the fighting in Korea war at its worst.
The Americans, South Koreans, and our allies who fought in Korea set a standard of courage that may someday be equal but can never be surpassed. Korea was not a police action or a crisis or a conflict or a clash. It was a war, a hard, brutal war. And the men and women who fought it were heroes.
Men like 81-year-old Robert Taplett, a retired Marine colonel who didn't make it to the ceremony. He has trouble walking because of severe frostbite suffered in North Korea, where the temperature often fell to 30 or 40 below zero.
The biggest enemy up there, I think, was the weather. Everybody had severe frostbite of some appendage, especially the feet. On a couple of occasions, when I took my socks off to change them, I actually chipped ice out from between my toes.
President Clinton, in paying tribute to the sacrifices of the past, also looked to the future. He envisioned an end to the bitterness between North and South, and a peace built on the sacrifices of war half a century ago. John Palmer, NBC News, Washington.
Now the casualties of another war in Bosnia. Today, British peacekeepers arrested a Serb leader charged with war crimes dating back to 1995, a man accused of slaughtering Muslim and Croat prisoners. NBC's Kiko Itasaka has the story.
A familiar sight, another mass grave unearthed in Bosnia this weekend, revealing the bodies of 30 Bosnian Muslims, victims of ethnic cleansing and mass murders committed by Serbs during the Bosnian War. And today, the arrest of a 36-year-old Bosnian Serb named Duško Sikirica, seized from his home and flown to the Hague War Crimes Tribunal, indicted for his role as prison camp commander, where 140 Bosnian Muslims and Croats were massacred.
War criminals, a person indicted for war crimes, should surrender to the authorities, as there's no hiding place in Bosnia.
Sikirica joins 36 other men detained at The Hague. 26 indicted Bosnian war criminals are still at large, including the top Bosnian Serb political and military leaders.
The real problem is that the more important the person that you're trying to go for, the more likely he is to be protected, to be disguised, to be in a different location.
The most sought-after fugitive still remains at large, Slobodan Milosevic, who remains president of Yugoslavia. Reportedly, there has been high-level discussion that Milosevic could be guaranteed safety if he would step down as president. But the head of the War Crimes Tribunal says Milosevic will be prosecuted no matter what.
I can assure you that we have no intention to withdraw this indictment.
But prosecutors and investigators have no access to Serbia. It is impossible to arrest many of the indicted criminals who may be hiding there. So there is little hope of bringing the main leaders to trial. Kiko Itasaka, NBC News.
In this country, some farmers are facing the driest summer they've seen since 1895. On Friday, parts of 4 states, Alabama, Florida, Nebraska, and New Mexico, were declared agricultural disaster areas because of the drought. But severe drought conditions persist across the country. NBC's Kenley Jones reports from South Georgia.
Will and Stacy West are 3-time losers to South Georgia's extreme drought, the worst in this area in 100 years. They plan to plow under their parched corn crop. It's ruined. Tobacco hasn't fared much better, all for lack of rain.
On our 3rd year, really, that we've had bad crops, and this has been the worst that I've seen since I've been farming.
The reason is they've been in an extended drought 2 or more years.
Blame it on La Nina, the weather pattern that has pushed the jet stream north, depriving the South and the Midwest of crucial winter rains. Livestock as well as crops are in danger. The pastures at Kelly Beck's dairy farm have dried up. His hay supply is running out.
Nobody's got rain to supply me.
The effects of the drought have reached the cities. Widespread outdoor watering restrictions are threatening lawns and gardens. In some cases, Water Patrol cops answer calls from residents who turn in their neighbors for violations. Nurseries, which supply homeowners and landscapers with plants and shrubs, report a dramatic drop in demand.
We're probably down 70-80% on the retail side and probably 40-50% on the wholesale side.
The drought brings yet another concern. Without cleansing rains, air becomes stagnant, increasing the danger of health hazards from air pollution. Scientists say smog alerts like the one in Atlanta today will become more frequent as the drought continues.
Heat stress, bad air, and people who are sick, the elderly, you see increased death rates in that.
For now, farmers are bearing the brunt of drought-related stress. While irrigation is helping some to survive, others face huge losses.
We're going to restructure our debts and see if we're able to farm again next year.
Agriculture officials predict that some of them, more than a few, will not. Kenley Jones, NBC News, Atlanta.
Back with more news in just a moment.
2 plays for $1. When I was a kid, a handful of nickels would keep the jukebox playing all night long.
Yeah, you know, you can't get much for $1 these days.
Yeah, but you can get all your long-distance calls for just 99 cents.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
He's right. Just dial 1010-220 and all calls up to 20 minutes are only 99 cents and just 7 cents a minute after that. No fees, no signing up. Just dial 1010-220.
Get yourself out of here.
How do you like me now? Typical dry cat food? Now Whiskas new savory nuggets with the soft center.
Perhaps we should try another building.
New Whiskas with savory nuggets. What cats want.
My dad was a coach at Georgia School for the Deaf. I grew up in an environment where deaf kids kind of adopted me in their culture. Thank all of you for coming to the camp today. When I first went to Merrill Lynch, I was very impressed with Steve Malone. He was very easy to talk to, and he listened well. So it's important for all of us to listen well and to cooperate. Every day you're building your future.
I'm on an all-night flight when suddenly, terrible heartburn. The guy in the next seat says, here, try this, Zantac 75. Thanks, I say. You know, maybe I ought to see a doctor about this heartburn. He says, you just did.
The medicine in Zantac 75 is the #1 doctor-prescribed acid reducer. It relieves even your toughest heartburn, controlling acid for up to 12 hours.
Thanks, doctor, wherever you are.
Zantac 75 for tough heartburn. Doctors know.
Just when you think you have the latest computer, you don't. But with the YourWare program, you can trade it in toward the purchase of a new one after 2 years. For $37 a month, get a Gateway Select PC with an AMD Athlon processor, year of AOL, and free Canon printer. Call 1-800-GATEWAY.
Presidential politics now, and the third-party candidacy of Ralph Nader. Today in Denver, he won the nomination of the Green Party and reached out to members of the 2 major parties and the undeclared.
Let us not in this campaign
prejudge any voters, for green values are majoritarian values.
After a moratorium of 14 months, the U.S. Navy today resumed its bombing range on the Puerto Rican island of Vieques. The ships had been waiting offshore until protesters were removed from the area. The Navy's neighbors have been demanding that shelling be prohibited. When NBC Nightly News continues, what some environmentalists are calling a prescription for disaster.
Now your touch does more to protect your dog or cat from parasites, because today there's Revolution, a better choice in parasite protection. Revolution, better because in just one touch, a single application, it protects against both external parasites like fleas and the deadly internal parasite heartworm. Revolution. It's the medicine that protects against adult fleas and their eggs in just one touch. And unlike other topicals, Revolution is a medicine, not a pesticide. Go ahead, touch, and feel good about the best kind of protection. Revolution is for cats and dogs 6 weeks or older. In less than 1% of cats and dogs, digestive upset was noted. In approximately 1% of cats, temporary hair loss at application site was noted. Use with caution on sick, weak, or underweight animals. Revolution, the only topical that protects against external and internal parasites in just one touch. Ask your veterinarian for it. Revolution, never has one touch protected so much.
This has more calcium than Tums?
It's true. Maalox Quick Dissolve Chewables have more calcium than regular Tums.
That's even better.
And they dissolve faster than Tums.
I'm gonna go for the Maalox.
Quick dissolve your heartburn away and get more calcium.
No doubt about it.
When water attacks, it can transform your beautiful deck into a danger zone. Boards warp and crack, weakening your deck. But Thompson's gives you the highest level of water protection available to protect your deck like no other. Thompson's. It never takes a day off, guaranteed.
There are times when you have trouble sleeping because you can't stop thinking about the tensions of the day. Try something different. New Aluna Sleep, the herbal supplement that won't knock you out, but relaxes you so you can drift off to sleep naturally. Aluna is not a drug. There are no groggy side effects. It promotes a natural sleep pattern in just a few nights. New Aluna. It doesn't make you sleep. It lets you sleep.
Who will tie the knot on today? Our 4 couples find out who you picked live on Tuesday. Then on Friday, live outside our studio, Britney Spears, only on Today.
Monday, Lifeline. This newborn could grow up in a world without cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, an extraordinary breakthrough. NBC Nightly News, Monday.
In focus this evening, the drive to set uniform health standards for the safe disposal of radioactive scrap. Critics worry that the contaminated products are slipping through the safety net. NBC's Dan Lothian has our report.
This is Cold War rubble. Once buildings and machinery no longer needed, now in a heap headed for disposal.
It's now undergoing the demolition and decontamination, or D&D as we call it.
At the Santa Susana lab in Southern California, operated by the Boeing Company's Rocketdyne division, piece by piece, deconstruction. But what next? Some materials will end up at landfills. Others could be recycled, made into materials that could end up in a car or house or on the dinner table. For years, scientists built engines for rockets and missiles at Rocketdyne, made nuclear fuel, tested nuclear reactors. Now, a raging debate over whether recycling materials from the facility for consumer use is a good idea.
A lot of their material has been exposed to radioactivity. The metals are radioactive. The contaminants that adhere to the metals are radioactive. Most cancers, many cancers, are brought about by exposure to radioactivity.
I will never be 100% sure of anything. What I can be sure of is that I'm controlling the material to levels which are far below the kinds of risks that we face every single day.
Heavy contaminated materials are supposed to be sent to licensed facilities for disposal, but federal guidelines allow mildly radioactive scrap metal to be recycled, the practice deemed safe and cost-effective.
Had a lot of different valuable materials and metals.
Rocketdyne says the radioactive levels in the scrap metal being recycled is generally less than exposure to an X-ray or a shaker of table salt substitute. How do they know? Before scrap materials leave facilities like this, there are at least 3 levels of critical safety checks.
At no time does a material leave that's questionable. At no time does a material leave that exceeds those very tight regulatory guidelines.
But there is debate over how effective those guidelines are. How little is really safe? Some argue repeated exposure to even small amounts on top of what occurs naturally is potentially hazardous. Barbara Johnson has been living near the Rocketdyne lab for 30 years, a vocal critic.
I say that we err on the side of caution and do the utmost to make sure that no possibly radioactive material is recycled.
Concern is growing now because the volume of recycled material from defense facilities is growing. And some fear small but dangerous radioactive pieces might be slipping through the safety net. At this California metal recycling plant, meters to measure radioactivity.
We've had 3 incidences where we've had radioactive material come in.
The Steel Manufacturers Association reports 50 incidents where materials contaminated beyond government safety standards were sent out to be recycled. Rocketdyne was not involved. Steel manufacturers and other groups are now calling for a halt to this recycling practice.
We do not want this material. We do not want to increase the risk to the workers. We don't want to increase the risk to the public.
But the government argues recycling makes financial sense and is safe when the rules are followed. Critics say the rules need to be updated. Dan Lothian, NBC News, Los Angeles.
That's Nightly News. I'm John Siegenthaler. Good night.
NBC News, America's news leader.
Another reason CNBC.com's portfolio tracker has been called the best on the web. Your stocks ranked by analysts. CNBC.com. Profit from it.
McPherson's Men's Shop, the only place you need to go for the finest in men's clothing. Superb selection of suits and sport coats from Austin Reed, Chaps, Racket Club, and Tommy Hilfiger. Sportswear from Chaps, Cutter & Buck, and Jack Nicklaus. Italian wear by Marcello and Tuliano. Shoes from a wide selection of slacks from Hilfiger, Racket Club, and Sansabelt. Rockport shoes in all sizes and styles. So come by and visit Jimmy, Joe, Sarah, and Mike at 5920 Charlotte Pike.
The all-new Ford Explorer Sport Track. As essential as gear gets. From Ford Outfitters. The most